What's up, guys? Mickle here, and the idea of a central bank digital currency or some kind of unified ledger is something that is often getting talked about in the XRP community, and we're only going to hear about it more as we move into the next generation financial system. And a lot of people are constantly asking the question, is this competition for XRP? Guys, in this video, I want to talk about why I'm not worried about these centralized unified ledger projects. Despite the fact that I do think we're going to see them, I really don't think they're going to disrupt what XRP is meant to disrupt in the financial system. Towards the end of the video, though, I want us to talk about some very important macro things taking place right now that you need to be paying attention to. Guys, I am a firm believer that we are about to head into a macroeconomic event that is going to cause the price of digital assets to go parabolic. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video to see that. It is very important right now. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. These two things really do mean so much. Also, if you ever need a place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. I guys want to start out this video and just quickly get into two things before we get into what I wanted to cover in the video. One, Gary Gensler was actually on CNBC earlier today, and Jim Cramer actually made fun of him for losing the Ripple SEC case. Guys, this is pretty shocking. Definitely not what I expected to see on CNBC this morning, but it shows that this Ripple SEC case really is going mainstream, and the mainstream opinion is that the SEC has lost this case. Now, the fact that mainstream media is now saying the SEC lost, people like Jim Cramer are interpreting it as a loss, is only going to help write the history of what happened in the Ripple SEC case, and it's going to make the perception that XRP is not a security become stronger and stronger in the public eye. While this doesn't seem important, I believe it definitely is critical. Perception is key, especially when it comes to politics. And if we can create the perception in Congress and in the media that XRP is not a security and the SEC lost the case, that is going to be critical to moving forward in a world where XRP is never deemed a security. It's also going to make it so big institutions who watch CNBC and keep track of the news are going to see that XRP is not a security. And if that continues to go mainstream, that is only going to further bolster adoption. So I don't think Gary Gensler being made fun of by Jim Cramer is necessarily a massive event. I think it at least shows that the perception that Ripple won the case against the SEC is continuing to go mainstream, and that is going to be critical for XRP ultimately getting the respect it deserves as one of the few non-security digital assets in the United States financial system. I want to talk about one other thing before we get into the core of this video, and that is some massive upgrades coming to the XRP ledger. I say this often on the channel. One of my favorite things about investing into XRP is that it's a deflationary asset, but the network is actually getting stronger and stronger every single day. The XRP you and I own is getting more and more powerful as the network is upgraded. You can't say that with almost any other asset out there. Gold, silver, other precious metals, other collectibles, all of these things almost always stay the same. They don't change. But the XRP you and I own gets more powerful with every passing day. Take a look at some of these massive upgrades coming to the XRP ledger, and we'll probably see most of these this year. So guys, first of all, we have price oracles. Price oracles are going to be critical in bringing off-chain data on-chain. As we move into a world of tokenization and more assets are tokenized on the XRP ledger, it's going to be critical that those assets have real-time prices. Price oracles are critical in actually bringing the off-chain data, such as the prices of commodities and securities on-chain, and therefore we can trade them appropriately. DID is also a very exciting one. Decentralized ID is going to allow financial institutions to leverage DeFi and really use the XRP ledger how it's intended to be used. One of the biggest things we constantly hear from large institutions is that they want to use DeFi, they want to step into these systems, but they need to make sure that when they interact with these DeFi systems, they're not interacting with any counterparties that are sanctioned or have any other qualifications on them that would allow the institution to say, hey, we can't actually do business with this person. DID is going to allow institutions to understand if they are interacting or could potentially interact with someone that they're not allowed to interact with. And by doing this, an institution could look at any pool or any DeFi application and say, hey, we can or can't interact here and not have to worry about the compliance side later down the road. Guys, compliance for institutions is critical, and decentralized ID is going to give institutions the clarity they need to actually interoperate in these markets. Guys, this is super exciting for me because I really do believe this is one of those XRP specific amendments. It's something that is critical to large players adopting this technology. It's critical to large institutions using these chains, and no other chain is really focused on that because they are focused on retail. Ripple knows that this is something these large institutions need, and that's why I'm so excited to see DID coming. I believe it's going to allow a lot more institutions to step into this industry and start using these networks, which ultimately is critical for cryptocurrency to go mainstream. Last of all, we have X-Chain Bridges, which is going to create a decentralized bridge between the XRP ledger and the Ethereum sidechain. Ultimately, any project building on Ethereum that hates the high gas fees is going to be able to come over to the XRP sidechain, build their application, and bring us XRP holders new ways to utilize our XRP. So some very exciting stuff here. And like I said, the XRP you and I owned, that XRP is just getting more and more powerful with these amendments. It's one of the coolest parts about investing into a network that's constantly getting stronger and stronger. Guys, I want to move on and show you something real quick because what we hear right now is a lot of talk about central bank digital currencies, unified ledger, and everything like that. This clip was taken from Congress earlier today. Listen up, and then I want to talk about the implications of all of this.
Well, sort of like a reserve currency where everybody could exchange their tokenized assets and trade them. Wouldn't that require one central bank currency to sort of settle all that out?
So guys, these conversations are going to keep happening. And I think there's one thing we need to understand about all of this. Central banks are not going to be the ones that create this space age technology to instantly settle assets all over the world. It's going to be the tech companies. Central banks are not innovative. They don't have the best engineers. They don't have the best software programmers, and they're really just focused on storing and investing value rather than actually creating new layers of the financial system. Guys, governments are not going to create it either. Governments are going to work with the private sector, the tech companies, adopt those technologies, and then integrate them into their systems so they don't have to build it. When we continue to hear stuff like unified ledgers and central bank digital currencies, it just makes me more bullish on players like Ripple ultimately landing most of the business. Guys, the US government and the biggest banks in the United States are going to capitulate and say, who can we work with? What technology can we adopt? What platforms can we utilize so we don't have to build this stuff themselves? Guys, these institutions, the governments, they are not worried about building the tech. They are worried about adopting the tech so that they can put their value on the new rails. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention because I think as this conversation continues to heat up and as people continue to talk about these unified ledgers or central bank digital currencies, I think people need to really understand, guys, the United States government is not building their own AI applications. They're not building their own cybersecurity platforms. They're not going to build their own digital currency rails. Instead, they're going to leverage the private sector, the Ripples of the world to build these things out. And that's why I think Ripple is focused on things like decentralized ID. They understand these big players are going to need it. They understand these big players are not going to build it themselves. So they would rather build it. So when these big institutions ultimately realize they're going to have to leverage things like Ripple and the XRP ledger, the tools are going to be there for them to adopt this technology seamlessly. Ultimately, that's the end goal. That has been Ripple's objective since day one. Build the tools so the big institutions can come in with their value, leverage the systems, because Ripple knows that they are going to be the ones to build the better mousetrap. They are the experts in this space, and ultimately everyone else is going to capitulate and come over to them. Guys, super exciting to see that the mainstream is starting to pick up on some of these concepts. I think it's only a matter of time before they realize Ripple has a 10-year head start on everyone else, and they're going to have to utilize those products rather than building them themselves. I want to finish this video off and just quickly get into some macro because I believe this is absolutely critical to be paying attention to. Guys, we have been talking about this since essentially 6 to 7 months ago. I have been hammering the point that I believe interest rate cuts are around the corner, and that is going to be massively bullish for the digital asset market. Well, guys, what do we know? Earlier today, we have the first major central bank starting cutting. That is the Central Bank of Canada. And typically what we have seen throughout history is the Bank of Canada, the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, all typically work together and have joint policy. Guys, I believe this is the canary in the coal mine that big interest rate cuts are around the corner. And I believe as we see that, we are going to see a weakening of the dollar and dollars flowing back into the cryptocurrency sector. Guys, we have had record debasement of the currency, and people are going to start looking for places to put their dollar where they believe their dollars will not lose purchasing power. Guys, as cryptocurrencies become more and more important in the financial system with finite supply and all kinds of other benefits that the system today doesn't have, I believe the choice to invest in this growing and emerging asset class is going to be obvious and suck up a ton of value that is flowing out of dollars. And guys, just to show you exactly why we need lower interest rates, right here you're looking at the US interest on the debt. Guys, when the United States jacks up interest rate, they jack up their own debt payments. Right now, we're paying more in debt than we are paying for our military. This is a massive issue. Yes, high interest rates worked before in the past. High interest rates were sustainable before in the past. But given the financial system today and where we sit with the debt, it is simply unsustainable to have high interest rates. Federal Reserve knows this. They know they can only keep rates high for so long, and that's why we are already seeing a pivot by some of the biggest institutions out there like the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. Guys, I believe this trend is going to continue with all major central banks. We are going to go back to a low interest rate environment, and the digital assets you and I hold are poised to benefit most. This is a message we have been talking about consistently on this channel for the past couple months. It's really cool to see it finally playing out. Guys, what I believe is around the corner is going to be one of the biggest bull markets we have ever seen, with the tech being adopted, with regulations easing, with the macro policy starting to look good. I cannot believe this is all coming together at this exact time, and I could not be more bullish on what's around the corner. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does mean so much. And for now, Mickle out.